Hey everyone, welcome to Science-Based Fitness. My name's Adam, thanks for stopping by. Today's video is all about long length partials and how you can actually implement them into your own workouts. Now there is more than one way you can do this, but I want to show you how I implement these into my workouts, a few different ways you can implement them. Now I want to give you a long length partial for each muscle group so you better understand this concept. And I want to look at a few key points that you should consider when deciding which exercise you should be doing long length partials with. But first, what is a long length partial? Now here's my quick 30-second breakdown. Long length partials are a strategy of resistance training that seem to be yielding greater hypertrophy results than your normal full range of motion. This is when you take a muscle to the stretched position of an exercise and you only utilize a half a rep in that stretched position. This leaves that muscle in that stretched position for longer and leads to added tension. And you can see an example of this while I do a fly. I come to the end of the range of motion where the pec is stretched and I only do about half a rep. One thing people seem to struggle with here is knowing when the muscle is in a stretched position. Each muscle group will be somewhat different. Let's take a look at the shoulder press, for example. Typically we would count one full rep from the bottom to the top, but our deltoids are actually in a stretched position at the bottom of the lift. So in order to implement the long length partial here, we would come to the bottom of the lift and only do about half a rep. Now you'll find this is actually similar with a chest press and a bench press. Not every lift is like this. A tricep extension, for example, has the triceps most stretched at the top of the lift here. So I don't think I have to keep going with this. Here's a quick reference. Feel free to take a screenshot. This is when the muscle is in a lengthened position. Now that cheat sheet should give you a few ideas on how you can mix in some long length partials. But I think there's a few key points we should be looking at before we select an exercise. The first factor is going to be safety. Here you can see me doing a dumbbell chest press. I'm repping out that partial where the muscle's stretched most, which is at the bottom of the lift. When I get close to fouling, you see I can simply dump the weights to the side. Alternatively, if I do this on a bench press and I end up fouling underneath the bar, I don't have a way to get out. Luckily in this situation I have safety rails, but for those who might not have safety rails, make sure you're considering the safety of the exercise first and foremost. The next is our ability to load an exercise. And I think using a side raise is a good example here. So here's my traditional side raise. The deltoid muscle is in its stretched position at the bottom of the lift. The problem with this exercise, there's very little resistance at the bottom of this lift. And a typical resistance profile would look something like this here. We don't hit max resistance until the very top of the lift. So using partials at the bottom of this lift where there's very little resistance might not be as useful. I think a more effective way to do this would be a cable side raise. Cable side raises have better resistance profiles and gives us the ability to load the bottom of the lift a little bit better. And you can see I'm struggling a lot more doing these partials at the bottom than I did doing the partials at the bottom of the standard side raise with a dumbbell. Now that third and final factor is when do we actually mix these in our workouts? Well, that's going to be up to you and how you actually train. I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there's a lot of different ways we can implement partials. One of those ways is saving one or two exercises that you only do partials with. Or maybe you keep your standard workout and mix in one or two sets of partials at the end of each exercise. Or the way that I prefer is this here. Let's say I'm hitting 5 sets of shoulder press for 10 reps total. And I always stop with just 1 rep in reserve. Let's say I decide to mix in partials at the end of that 10th rep. This will allow me to hit maybe 3 to 5 more additional partials until I completely fail. Now I find that these long length partials at the end of a traditional set tends to allow me to just push a little bit harder than I traditionally would. Training harder, using an appropriate load, and picking safe exercises seem to encompass a better way of implementing long length partials. But the last thing I want to do here today is make sure I give you guys at least one exercise you can have to mix long length partials in per each major muscle group and biceps and triceps. So let's quick look at that. Let's first talk about shoulders, and I already went over a variation of side raise. Using the cable side raise is a great option for the deltoids. You can also add the shoulder press variation I showed earlier. Make sure you stay in that stretch position at the bottom of this lift, as you can see me doing here. Now moving on to chest. Here are dumbbells, which I believe are a safer alternative, but that doesn't mean you can't ever use a barbell. And for those who are more flexible, it allows you to get a further stretch, obviously within reason. We come to the bottom of the lift and we stay in that stretch position throughout the full lift. Got it? Good. Moving on, here's back. Now, this is a little bit different. You can see me here hitting a full rep on a pull down variation. As I get close to failure, the long length partial is actually at the top of this lift when the muscle is in a stretched position. And this is what my partial rep range would look like. This is a great one to be able to add extra fatigue and push closer to failure on. When it comes to legs, squats, lunges, or split squats are 3 great examples of movements you can do long length partials with. Now, I'm still only a few weeks out from hip labrum surgery, so I'm using the TRX here for my squats, but you can see how I come to the end of the range of motion and I utilize the bottom portion of this lift because that's where our muscles are stretched. Now, I also think it's important to note real quick, especially with this one, we don't want to utilize the stretch shortening cycle and just bounce on the muscle back and forth. Make sure you consciously have control. All right, now biceps and triceps. Biceps are probably one of the more easy muscles to do partials with. Here you can see me using an easy bar for curls. The stretch position is at the bottom of the lift. This is another lift that I'll go through the full range of motion. As fatigue sets in, I'll allow myself to push a little bit harder with a couple half reps, maybe 1 or 2 quarter reps. So here's a tricep exercise I like doing this with. This is where we keep our arms in an elevated position, which targets more of the long head of the tricep, which I guess isn't important for right now. But the stretch position here is the opposite of the bicep. So the more elbow flexion we have, the more of a stretch we experience on the triceps. Here you can see me coming to that end of range of motion, mixing in those partials for those triceps. All right, do we got it? Good, I think that's pretty much it. I hope you guys found some value in that video today. If you want to know what makes an exercise good, that video is right up here. And YouTube recommends this video here of my content. So feel free to hit that like and subscribe button if you did enjoy this video. And I'll see you guys next time. Have a good day.